The board was never empty. It stood at the end of a narrow corridor inside an East German university building. A rectangle of cork framed in dull metal. Typed notices aligned in careful rows. Announcements. Department updates. Examination schedules. Administrative corrections. Names were always visible. Faces too. Each faculty member had a small identification photograph pinned beside their name. Neutral expression. Direct gaze. Official format. Standardized dimensions. The same light background. The same frontal posture. Nothing expressive. Nothing personal. The corridor functioned like a slow conveyor belt. Students walked past without stopping. Shoes echoed against polished floors. Coats brushed against concrete walls painted a pale institutional beige. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The building never felt loud. It felt regulated. One morning, the corridor looked the same. But one photograph was different. It was still pinned. The metal tack still held it in place. But the face was gone. The small rectangle of paper had been turned backward. The back of the photograph now faced the corridor. Blank. Slightly textured. Faint manufacturer stamp visible in one corner. Edges worn from handling. No notice had been removed. No name had disappeared. No title had changed. Only the face had been reversed. No one asked why. In East Germany, universities were not neutral institutions. They produced engineers, chemists, historians, economists. They also produced reliability. Academic appointments were filtered long before lectures began. Party membership mattered. Recommendations mattered. Background evaluations mattered. Faculty lists were public for a reason. Visibility was part of administrative architecture. To appear on the board meant more than employment. It meant alignment. It meant institutional recognition. The photograph was not decoration. It anchored identity to role. Students walking the corridor absorbed this without reflection. They did not analyze the system. They moved within it. Faces became markers of authority. Authority became a visible arrangement. The board was updated methodically. Promotions were posted. Committee assignments rotated. Research delegations announced. Corrections typed and retyped. The layout remained consistent. Symmetry signaled order. Everything was documented. Everything was displayed. Except that one face. The name beside the reversed photograph remained intact. Same typeface. Same alignment. Same spacing. Office number unchanged. But the image was no longer offered. The photograph had been turned inward, toward the cork. As if visibility itself had been reconsidered. There was no handwritten annotation. No red ink. No crossing out. The board did not dramatize change. It absorbed it. Removal would have created interruption. An empty space attracts attention. A missing name generates conversation. But a reversed photograph creates something quieter. It signals alteration without disruption. The professor continued to exist administratively. Salary files did not vanish. Course listings were adjusted gradually. Committee participation shifted. Internal paperwork continued moving through offices. Externally, the corridor remained calm. In a system built on records, absence was rarely accidental. It was procedural. The reversal of a photograph did not erase a career. It repositioned it. From visible authority to contain documentation. The name remained typed. But the face was no longer public property. Students passed a surface where recognition used to exist. They did not stop. They recalibrated. The system did not require spectacle to communicate hierarchy. It required precision. East Germany maintained one of the most detailed administrative cultures in Europe. Records were layered, cross-referenced, indexed. Universities were not isolated from this culture. They fed it. Faculty backgrounds were evaluated not once, but continuously. Travel permissions were reviewed. International correspondence noted. Academic partnerships monitored. Most of this activity left no trace in corridors. It lived in folders, in cabinets, in rooms without windows. The state did not always remove individuals dramatically. Often, it reorganized their visibility. A professor might be reassigned to research without students. Lectures redistributed. Office relocated. Externally, the institution remained stable. Internally, alignment was recalculated. The reversed photograph functioned as a subtle interface between these two layers. Public presence adjusted. Internal documentation expanded. The corridor saw less. The archive saw more. No accusation needed to be posted. No confrontation required. In administrative systems that value continuity, disruption is inefficient. Reversal is cleaner. It preserves the board's symmetry. It maintains procedural language. It avoids theatricality. The photograph did not accuse. It indicated. By the late 1970s, East German institutions had refined the art of controlled adjustment. Overt purges belonged to earlier decades. Now, structure operated through calibration. A reversed photograph accomplished multiple objectives simultaneously. It preserved visual order. It avoided explicit conflict. It communicated conditional visibility. It reduced speculation by offering no narrative. The professor's name remained visible. But the corridor no longer recognized his face. Students adjusted their expectations. Colleagues modified their speech patterns. No circular was issued instructing them to do so. The board had already communicated enough. Authority in such systems does not depend on constant declaration. It depends on predictable procedure. Weeks later, a typed notice appeared lower on the board. Administrative reassignment. Language neutral. Tone bureaucratic. No reference to prior status. No explanation for change. The reversed photograph remained in place for several more days before disappearing entirely. When it was finally removed, the cork showed a faint rectangular impression. The space was filled by another announcement. Alignment restored. The corridor continued its rhythm. Shoes against concrete. Fluorescent lights humming. Typed pages aligned under glass. Nothing looked unstable. But the board had demonstrated something precise. In that building, Existence was not eliminated abruptly. It was adjusted gradually. Visibility was not permanent. It was conditional. The system did not need to shout. It only needed to change the direction of a face. And that was enough.